right? So in the last session, let me tell you, we were discussing about linear models and we have actually completed that. I started with the theory of linear regression, right? We started with theory of linear regression, and then we have seen a simple numerical in that case, right? And just to discuss these linear models, we have even seen the implementation of linear regression. And once the implementation of linear regression is done, we talked about deployment of a model, right? A linear model onto cloud. So those people who are present, who join on time, they might remember that we have used something called as Heroku Cloud. So I have even shown you how to practically deploy any model onto cloud, right? So yes, we have seen everything about linear model, even though deployment was not there in your syllabus, but still we have discussed that. And least square methods, and talking about these least square methods, the thing which we discussed, right? R square statistics, right? R square statistics actually it makes use of least square method only. What is least square method is, see what happens is, now if you have these data points, right? This is the data point. Now in theory, if you remember, we have seen something called as line of regression. Okay, line of regression, or base fit line, or line of base fit. We have seen something called as line of base fit in linear regression. So what is line of base fit? Line of base fit is a line which passes through dense area. If these are your data points, line of base fit always passes through dense area. That means where there are a lot of data points. That means this particular distance from each and every point is as minimum as possible. This distance, this distance, this distance, right? And so this is whatever the values which are on the line, these are the values which are actually predicted values, and these are the original values. So the difference between prediction and the original, I told you that it is nothing but error, which we call it as a residual, right? Residual is nothing but error. So our target will be to minimize this error or this residual. Okay, so I told you the formula of R square statistics. In that case, it is something, prediction minus, or a real value minus predicted value divided by number of records, right? And then take the summation of that. So what is R square statistics is, the formula is something like this. If xi is the original record, right? And suppose x cap, xi cap may be the predicted value. So the difference between them is going to be error. So we take the square of the error. This is actually the formula of R square statistic. Summation I equal to 1 to n, where n is number of records, right? I is going to vary from 1 to n. So if you remember, in our case there were 500 number of records. So I is going to vary from 1 to 500. So summation I equal to 1 to n xi minus xi cap. Xi is original value. Xi cap is the predicted value divided by n minus 1. Right. Now, why do we take the square of this? This is just to nullify the effect of negative values. See, if suppose you are trying to create a model which is helping you to calculate or to predict the salary of an employee. So original salary is suppose 50 and the predicted salary is 45. So the difference between original and the predicted is what? 5. So in this case the difference is positive. But it might happen that the original salary is 30 and your model is predicting suppose something like 45. So the difference is 30 minus 45, right? So it is in negative, right? Maybe in this case it is minus 50, right? So just to nullify this kind of effect, it is taking the square of that. And that is the thing about least square method. So what we do is we always try to find out the least value. Our target is going to be to find out this least value, meaning this should be as minimum as possible. What do you mean by that? It means that residual should be as minimum as possible. That error should be as minimum as possible. And what do? We actually take the square of the error. Why we take the square of the error? This is just to nullify the effect of this negative value. Right? If you people remember line of base fit, right? This is what we started with when we talked about linear models. So yes, we actually covered this least square method in that case only. Talking about multivariate linear regression, this is the example which we have seen in case of implementation. Those people who understood the data set completely, I have even shared the data set with you people, right? The problem statement in for the data set was what? we wanted to predict the chance of admission of a student in foreign university, right? Chance of admit, depending on his GRE score, TOEFL score, and all those things. So in that case, you are having multiple variables. That was a proper example of multivariate linear regression. That's what we implemented in our previous session, if you remember, right? So I just want to tell you that in these linear models, we have seen least square method, multivariate linear regression also, and we have even implemented that, and we have deployed that onto cloud. We actually went one step further and we deployed it onto cloud. This is what we have seen till now. Obviously, there will be multiple questions which can be possible on linear regression, right? But yes, there are more topics which one should know whenever one is trying to create the model. For example, if you are getting accuracy at 85%, but if you want to remove the accuracy, so what do you do in that case, right? So there is something called as cross validation and all those methods are there, but yes, these methods are not mentioned in your syllabus. That's why I will just limit myself here, right? And next thing which we are going to discuss is something called as support vector machine. So let's discuss about support vector machine, but before that let me tell you generally what happens is, before discussing support vector machine, see, it sequence should be like this. First of all, linear regression, then logistic regression, then decision tree, then you have multiple algorithms. Then you have something called as XGBoost algorithm, which is also a machine learning algorithm, right? Then there is something called as K nearest neighbor. I think KNN is there in your syllabus somewhere. Yes, let me check. This one. Here we will see nearest neighbor. So for that we will see KNN algorithm. And then there is support vector machine, right? Support vector machine. There are two flavors of support vector machine: support vector regressor and support vector classification. Okay, so one by one we will try to see all these algorithms. But yeah, generally the situation should be like this actually. But yeah, in your syllabus they are directly actually mentioned this particular algorithm. So I will go according to the syllabus. Now, whatever we have seen in case of linear regression, always remember I told you regression is nothing but what? Prediction. So linear regression is used to solve the problems of regression or prediction only. With the help of linear regression, you cannot solve the problems of classification, right? But the algorithm which we are going to talk about, that is nothing but support vector machine. Support vector machine can solve the problems of regression as well as classification. Support vector machine can solve both types of problems. Even except linear regression and logistic regression, all the other algorithms can solve both the types of problems: linear regression, prediction, and classification. Both these types of problems can be solved. Okay, so let me give you a basic idea about support vector machine. What is support vector machine? Why it is used? What are the applications of support vector machine? And how to implement that? Even we will go and we will see the implementation of support vector machine, right? And yes, definitely, which are the methods which can be used to implement support vector machine, that also we will try to talk about. So for that, what I will do, I will first of all go and try to introduce you some of the theoretical terms which are related to support vector machine. We will see a very basic uh, very basics which are related to support vector machine. We will try to talk about those topics, and then I will go and I will try to show you explanation or the notes related to support vector machine, like for example this one. We'll be talking about all these things, but before that let me go and let me talk about some of the basic concepts, or maybe I can say what is the idea behind support vector machine. Let me talk about that particular thing, and then we will go and we will see all these things whatever is mentioned in these notes, right? We'll be talking about all these things. Even implementation is also there are I'll be showing you how to solve the previous problem with support vector machine. If you people remember, in case of linear regression we have used this particular CSV file. So and we developed a model in which we were trying to predict chance of admission, right? So same problem I will try to solve with the help of support vector machine, and then we will see what is the accuracy it has actually shown to us, or it will show us, right? So one by one we will see. Actually there are two examples which we are going to implement in this case. Yes, but before that let me go and let me try to discuss about some of the basic concepts, as they have mentioned only this topic, as they have mentioned support vector machine, that's it. Okay, so what I will do, I will go and I will try to talk about a basic things about support vector machine, and then we will go and we will see the implementation. As I told you, whatever the algorithms we have seen, so in our case we talked about linear regression, right? So linear regression basically is used to solve prediction types of problems or regression types of problems. But talking about support vector machine, as I told you, it can solve both the types of problems, uh, linear regression as well as prediction. As I told you, you have two flavors of support vector machine. One is called as support vector regressor. Okay, I will write it down here. Support vector regressor (SVC). So in Python, you need to call a method called as SVC. Sorry, SVR to create a regression models. And there is another flavor of support vector machine, and that is the but support vector classifier. So the name of the method which is present in Python under scikit-learn package is SVC. So support vector regressor and support vector classifier. These are the two flavors which are available in case of support vector machine. Regressor can be used to solve regression problems, or it can be used to create prediction models or regression models. And classifier, as the name suggests, it can be used to solve classification types of problems. Remember this. So let's start our discussion with support vector machine. Now, whatever the algorithms which I listed sometime before, right? For example, maybe you might have heard about, you have seen linear regression, or you might have heard about decision tree or random forest, or maybe KNN algorithm. You talk about any other machine learning algorithm, right? Most of the algorithm actually depend on something called classification, right? So most of the earlier algorithms, right, they depend on probability for classification. The algorithms like decision tree, random forest, XGBoost, or maybe KNN, all these algorithms they depend on probability. They make use of the concept of probability for solving classification types of problems. Right? For example, suppose maybe you have a problem to solve. Right? There is a class A and there is a class B. Now your job is to uh, uh, create a classification model, and that model should help you to identify to which column or to which class the row belongs. So maybe if suppose for the first record the probability is 0.8 for class A, and obviously for class B probability is 0. Suppose for this one 0.3, for second record probability of A is 0.3, probability of A belonging to probability of this record belonging to A is 0.3, and probability of this record belonging to B is suppose 0.7. So what is the basic idea behind other algorithms which can be used to solve classification problems? They make use of probability. So in this case, uh, this record is going to belong to class A, and this record is going to belong to class B because the probability is higher in both the cases respectively. That's how actually all the other algorithms make use of probability for solving classification types of problems. But talking about supporter vector machine, where it differentiates from other algorithms is in solving classification types of problems. It does not make use of probability to solve classification type of problems, but SVM classifies the data based on something called as hyperplane. So this is something important about support vector machine. Support vector machine makes use of something called as hyperplane to classify the data to solve classification types of problems. So SVM classifies data based on hyperplanes to divide our data. It makes use of hyperplane. So for n dimensional, it's a plane, right? We will be talking about one dimensional data, two dimensional data, n dimensional data, and what type of hyperplane you are going to get in that case. And what is a hyperplane? That also I will be showing you pictorially in the notes itself. It is mentioned, right? So let's try to understand now what is the basic idea behind support vector machine, right? So let's see. Suppose we have some observations. Let's talk about one dimensional data, right? One dimensional data. It means you have only, you do not have x and y axis. You have only one axis, right? So let's suppose, let me represent one dimensional data, something like this. Let's suppose this is a one dimensional data. These are the data points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Suppose these are the data points on this side. So now let's suppose this one is showing income of the people, income of the employee, right? So the problem statement is we need to classify people based on their income, right? Whether their income is high or whether their income is low. Suppose these people on this side, these are the people whose income is low, and these are the people whose income is high. Let's suppose it is like this, right? Now what we want to do is we want to divide this data. We want to classify this data depending on the income of the people. Okay, so where support vector machine is going to come into picture here? So as I told you, support vector machine makes use of hyperplane to divide the data. So therefore, as it's a one-dimensional data, right? So as it's a one-dimensional data, there will be a hyperplane of, so for one-dimensional data, there will be a hyperplane of 1 minus 1, that is 0 dimensions. It means what is hyperplane? Hyperplane is something which is going to help you to divide this particular data into two parts. So the hyperplane of 0 dimensions. That means in this case the plane is going to be a dot, a single point. I will tell you. See what happens in general is, suppose if you have a two-dimensional data. So for two-dimensional data, hyperplane will be, see, for one-dimensional data, hyperplane will be of 1 minus 1. Hyperplane will be a point. Hyperplane will be a point. For two-dimensional data, so two-dimensional, that means 2 minus 1. Hyperplane will be a line, right? And for three-dimensional data, it will be a plane. And for n-dimensional data, so if you go on like this, for n-dimensional data, hyperplane will be of n minus 1 dimensions. We will talk about this. Here you can think of the hyperplane as a point. Okay. So here our problem is classifying people based on their income, whether the income is high or whether the income is low. So what happens is, now as we want to divide this data into, or classify this data, or classify people based on their income, whether they come in the class of low income or high income. So maybe suppose this is point P1 and this is point P2. So what I can do is I can actually take this point, suppose, and with the help of this point I can go and I can try to divide this particular data into two planes or two parts. Maybe I can take this point, or maybe I can come up with a point here. So what support vector machine makes sure is that, suppose this is the point which belongs to people who belong to low income class, and this is the point from the group of the people who belong to high income class. Now we need to come up with such a point whose distance from this point and this point is as maximum as possible, right? But what happens is there are infinite number of points which are there, which are possible in between P1 and P2. Right. So goal is to come up with a point in such a way that it maximizes the distance ready. This distance D should be actually, this distance D should be this one. This distance D I am talking about. This distance D should be as maximum as possible. So we need to come up with such a point, the distance from which is as maximum as possible from this point and from this point, from this group and this group respectively. Right? But as I told you, between P1 and P2, there can be infinite number of points which can be possible. Right? And that's why support vector machine makes use of a concept of something called as maximum marginal classifier. Support vector machine makes use of this concept, maximum marginal classifier. Let's see what it is actually. Let's see. You will be in a position to understand why are we trying to discuss all these things when we will go and when we will talk about the implementation also. There you will be able to see the complete the actual data set, right? And then you'll be able to see the actual result. And then definitely it will make sense why are we discussing this kind of things, right? Because I have already told you, right? The sequence should be like this: linear regression, logistic regression, and so on. But as they have directly mentioned support information, no problem. You will be able to understand this, but just concentrate here and just wait for the implementation. Definitely you will get why are we discussing all this. Because in Python, as there is scikit-learn package, in scikit-learn package you have a lot of methods available, and those methods are like, you can go and directly call svc or directly call svr, and then you can actually do your job. Okay, so as it was a one-dimensional data, that's why our plane was a single point, right? Let's suppose take the same example, right? But this time what we will do is we will take an example of two-dimensional data, or what I can say is I will just transform this one to maybe suppose this is the x-axis. Okay, so what y is equal to, suppose y is equal to, take the square of x-axis. So I can go and I can come up with another point, right? So maybe as all those points were lying here, right, something like this, When our data was one dimensional data, so it was like this. Now we want to convert it to 2D, so just introduce a y-axis here, right? And this was your x-axis. So maybe y is equal to x square. So suppose all this, after taking the square, suppose you got this kind of points, something like this. Just imagine you have this kind of points. So now your data is what, two dimensional. You have x-axis and you have y-axis. So you have two dimensions now. So we introduce y-axis here. Now what happens is, as it's a two-dimensional data, so two dimensions. So what is your hyperplane? So n minus 1. Always remember, whenever there is n dimensional data, your hyperplane is of going to be n minus 1. So as it's a two-dimensional data, hyperplane will be of 2 minus 1. That means 1. That means it is going to be a line. It is going to be a line. So hyperplane is going to be something like this. Something like this. Now here I am directly drawing this line because I just want to tell you what is hyperplane and how it's going to work theoretically. So maybe suppose if you want to solve a problem that which students are average students and which are non-average students. So out of all the students, suppose these data points are representing students or their marks, for example. So maybe the students, the marks for the students whose marks are above this line, suppose they are non-average students, right? And the below they are average students. So see, this particular line is your hyperplane here. Why a line is hyperplane here? Because your data is two-dimensional data. I told you for n-dimensional data, n minus 1 is the hyperplane. Okay, always remember that. So see, this is the basic idea which actually it is going to make use of. So in this case, this line is going to be a hyperplane, right? So here I have given you a simple example. This is just an example, okay? In reality, this is not going to happen. Y is equal to x square. This is not going to happen. Instead of these, support vector machine is going to make use of some ready-made functions. And which are those ready-made functions that we are going to discuss actually. Okay, so see, we have taken the example of one-dimensional data. We have seen two-dimensional data. So what happens is, whether it's one-dimensional, two-dimensional, there will be a hyperplane which is going to be introduced. And when it is going to be introduced, it is going to make use of some methods or functions. Let me go and let me show you an example of a higher dimensional relationship, or maybe suppose let me take an example of three-dimensional data. Right? See, as I told you, what happened actually earlier our data was one-dimensional data, so we converted the data into two-dimensional data. Suppose maybe using some y is equal to x square or squaring the values, or generally this support vector machine makes use of something called as kernel trick. So our job is to understand what is this kernel trick. It makes use of something called as kernel trick, and generally it is for higher dimensional data, three dimensional, four dimensional, n dimensional. Let's suppose your data set is something like this. Okay, let me go and let me suppose let me write down some data points here. Now see, something like this. Now you cannot easily divide this particular data. You cannot easily classify this particular data into different classes, right? Because it's three dimensional. So what we can do in this kind of case is we can go and we can change the dimension of the data, right? So as I told you, see, in this case what's going to happen, as it's a three-dimensional data, for example. So hyperplane will be of n minus 1 dimensions. That means hyperplane will be of 2 dimensions, right? That means hyperplane will be actual plane here. See, always remember this. For n dimensional data, let me just write down here. There can be a question in your exam, okay? For n dimensional data in support vector machine, what is the hyperplane? Hyperplane will be a point because 1 minus 1. For two dimensional data, what is the hyperplane? Hyperplane will be a line. In earlier example, we have seen that. For three dimensional data, hyperplane, here the hyperplane will be actual plane. How? That we will see. So in general, for n dimensional data, hyperplane will be of n minus 1 dimensions. Remember, this is what is going to happen in case of support vector machine. Okay. So here it makes use of something called as kernel. So what's going to happen is it is going to make it resemble to three coordinate system. In Jupyter, we will be talking about this kind of a diagram, right? So as I told you that this support vector machine is going to make use of kernel trick. This is actually some mathematics I can say, right? So mathematical equation is going to make use of, and which is nothing but kernel trick. So what is there in this kernel trick? As I told you in earlier example, I have given a example like y is equal to x square, squaring the values. So in reality, this is not going to happen actually, but it is going to make use of some of the methods, and those methods are going to be kernel tricks. So let me tell you what are the methods which are involved in kernel trick. By default, support vector machine always makes use of one method, right, or mathematical equation, and that is called as RBF. See, when we will go and we will implement support vector machine in the background, this is what is going to be executed. RBF. RBF actually stands for radial basis function. This is the mathematics involved behind support vector machine. Radial basis function. Now, what is this radial basis function? This is the default function, default method which is used by support vector machine, and it is present in scikit-learn package. Okay, so scikit-learn we already talked about. In your case, as we have already talked about linear regression model. So while implementing linear regression model in Python, we talked about scikit-learn. I told you that almost all the machine learning algorithms are actually available in scikit-learn. So one of them is support vector machine also. But support vector machine in the background it makes use of kernel tricks, and kernel tricks makes use of some methods or functions. And first method or function or the default method or function which is used by kernel trick in case of support vector machine is radial basis function. Now what is this radial basis function? So there will be equation for this. Radial basis function RBF, the equation it looks like something like this: e raised to power minus gamma into a minus b whole square. This is the equation of radial basis function, where this gamma is nothing but the weightage. Okay, it is nothing but the weightage, or we also call it as a contribution, right? Contribution of that particular attribute, right? And it is given for each point. This gamma is nothing but the weightage of the contribution. And what are these a and b? This a is the first point or first variable, first attribute, okay, first column we can say, and this is nothing but second point, right? First point, second point. This is the equation of radial basis function. Even if you are not aware about this particular equation, no problem, right? While implementing, you are not going to face any problem. But as I told you, we'll be able to make a sense about this once you see the implementation. That's why I'm just trying to introduce you to the theory and the mathematics, and then we will go and we will see the concept one more time, and then we will implement. Okay. So this is what it makes use of. But it is not like that there is only radial basis function which is used by support vector machine. There are other mathematical equations also. For example, there is something called as sigmoid, right? So those people who might be working on deep learning projects or maybe using PyTorch or TensorFlow, they might have used these kind of functions, right? That's why one needs to know all these things. Actually, they are very, very important. So sigmoid is a function actually, and generally sigmoid function we use in logistic regression, right? Logistic regression, I think it is not there in your syllabus for implementation, but yes, logistic regression can be used to solve classification types of problems, which makes use of sigmoid function. You might be knowing sigmoid function actually always gives you values between 0 and 1, right? And as logistic regression makes use of probability, and we know that probability value should always lie between 0 and 1, and that is the reason why sigmoid function is used for logistic regression. Okay, right. So yes, sigmoid function can also be used here in this case, which can be used for logistic regression class. Another method which can be used here is polynomial, right? Some polynomial methods can be used. Okay? For example, suppose k of x comma y is equal to, this is a polynomial equation, k of x comma y is equal to, maybe I can write it down, x into suppose y plus 1 raised to power d. This is a polynomial equation. Okay, so here this kind of equation can be used. Okay, someone is asking what is kernel trick? Can you please repeat? Okay. See, kernel trick is actually the mathematics involved. Or let me tell you, if I want to tell you definition of a kernel trick. Kernel trick is something which is used by support vector machine, right? So It's a function. Kernel trick is a function, I can say, that takes the input. Maybe suppose it takes the input as the vectors in the original space. See, what is vector? For that, one should know what is a vector. Vector is a one-dimensional array. Vector is a one-dimensional array. Okay. So what is kernel trick? A kernel trick can be a function that takes vectors in the original space as input and returns the dot product of the vectors in feature space. See, I am talking about original space to feature space. What do you mean by this? It means suppose originally my data was in three dimensions, right? And now as output I am getting my data in maybe two dimensions. So I will again repeat definition of kernel trick. It can be a function that takes vectors in original space as the input and returns the dot product of the vectors in feature space. This is nothing but kernel function or kernel trick. Is it clear, Sharon? And what kernel trick makes use of? Kernel trick makes use of some methods. Radial basis function, sigmoid function, polynomial equation, something like this. And again, it is not limited to only this three or four. There are other methods. Some of you might have heard about something called as hypertangent, right? Hypertangent. So those who are aware about again, those who are aware about Google TensorFlow and all those things, you might have come across. There are near about 14, 15 functions which are available, right? So hypertangent. There is something called as just now we talked about linear model, right? So linear model also, right? So linear model, like we already seen the equation, k of xy is equal to maybe x into y, something like that. So yes, these are the functions which can be used inside kernel theory. But it has been seen that the best result is always given by RBF, radial basis function, in almost all the cases. And that's why this is the default method. If you want to change, instead of RBF, if you want to go and if you want to make use of some another function or a method, yes, you can go and you can make use of that. But the default is RBF. So remember, there can be a question. Which function can be used as a default by kernel trick in case of support vector machine? Your answer should be RBF, radial basis function. Okay. So it means what? In whatever the dimensions your data is, kernel trick is going to help you to resemble your data to feature space so that the calculation should be easy. See, I don't know whether you are aware about or not. If an image is a black and white image, right? So you can make use of 0 and 1. But if it's color image, you can make use of 0 to 255. So color image is actually n dimensional image. This image is a two dimensional image, right? So whether your data is a video data, image data, you need to store the data uh, onto disk, right? And how you can store that? You can make use of, yes, you can make use of something called as arrays, and there this is going to come into picture. Okay? So yes, try to remember these names at least here. Okay, so I will go forward and I will try to talk about remaining points in case of support vector machine. See, as we are talking about support vector machine, let's see what do you mean by support vector. What is this support vector means? Suppose you have some data set. I think maybe before this, uh, one example is given in your IPO file. It's actually a good example. That is the example which I want to discuss. Before this thing, let me tell you what happens is, as I was talking about this RPF, radial basis function, right? So equation was something like this: e raised to power minus gamma e minus a minus b whole square, something like this. Here this gamma is the weightage or contribution given for each point, and a and b are the points, first point and the second point. Now, this makes the calculation in infinite dimensions. In dimension, right? Maybe in college days or maybe in your mathematics subject, you might have heard about, or maybe in 11th, 12th, you might have heard about something called as Taylor series, right? Anyone remember this Taylor series, or at least what was the use of Taylor series? What Taylor series can do? Can you people remember? Have you come across this one? Maybe I don't know whether you have M1, M2, M3 subjects or not, or maybe 10 plus 2 you might have come across this Taylor series. So what Taylor series could do is it actually represent any mathematical function as sum of infinite numbers. You talk about any mathematical function, it can be represented as sum of infinite numbers with the help of Taylor series. For example, you might have come across equation, right? So Taylor series was having equation something like this: f of x is equal to something like f of a plus f dash of a. Now, what is this f dash of a? F dash of a is equal to the first derivative, right? F dash of a divided by 1 factorial into x minus a. X is the variable plus and so on. F double dash of a, that means second derivative, then 2 factorial into x minus a whole square plus and so on and plus go on like this and f is to power infinity infinity factorial into x minus infinity whole square. Sorry, x minus infinity x minus a whole raised to power n. Something like this. It was a Taylor series, which you could have made use of, and you were able to represent any mathematical equation as a sum of infinite numbers. So it was possible with the help of Taylor series. Something like this you can do with the help of radial basis function. You can represent any dimensional data, and you can actually represent that particular data, right? So that's why it is actually so whatever it was doing, same thing it can do, right? Here in case of implementation. See, don't worry about this equation, okay? Otherwise, you will see this kind of equation and you will feel that okay, this is something very crazy. No, it is. I'm just trying to take an example. Maybe you might have come across Taylor series. If not, forget about it. No, no problem. Right. So kernel trick makes use of RBF. Now, I shown you the equation of a RBF, radial basis function. So let's go to the Jupyter notebook and let me show you an example. Let's discuss what is this support vector machine all about. Very simple example. See, support vector machine is supervised machine learning algorithm. Now, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by supervised machine learning algorithm? That we have discussed in our earlier session. Whenever this word is going to come into picture, supervised machine learning algorithm. Always remember, right? It means you are aware about input and output in advance. That means your data is labeled the data, right? And obviously, you can solve problems of classification as well as regression, as I told you earlier. And it is widely used for solving different machine learning problems. Okay. Given the data set, the algorithm tries to divide data using hyperplanes and then makes prediction. So it does not make use of probability concept, right? So SVM is a non-probabilistic linear classifier. Why the word non-probabilistic is used? Remember all these terms; they are very very important. Okay, there can be a question true or false. SVM is a probabilistic linear classifier, or SVM is a non-probabilistic linear classifier. So SVM is a non-probabilistic linear classifier. Why? Because it does not make use of probability. I already told you it makes use of something called as hyperplane to solve the classification problems, right? While other classification algorithms or other classifiers, when classifying, predict the probability of a data point to belong to one group or another. As I told you, right? Probability, whatever the probability, for whatever the class the probability is greater, that particular observation is going to belong to the respective class. That means it makes use of probability, but support vector machine does not make use of probability, and that is the reason why it is called as non-probabilistic linear classifier. That is the reason why the word non-probabilistic is there. Okay, so SVM directly says to which group the data point belongs to without using any probability calculation. That's why it is non-probabilistic. Now, in understanding the mathematics involved, now see, this is the example I was just trying to talk about. You can see in the following data set, how can you divide the data into appropriate groups. Now, here you can see intentionally, this data is data set is given to you. Complete data set is given to you, and intentionally the colors are different. This is one group and this is another group. But just imagine that, just assume that this is the complete data which is given to you by a client. Now client is asking you to classify this data. Now to classify this data, obviously you are going to require some parameter, right? You are going to require some point. Now just check how many number of dimensions are there, x-axis and y-axis. That means it's a two-dimensional data. So as it's a two-dimensional data, that means what will be the size of the hyperplane? What will be the hyperplane? Hyperplane is going to be 2 minus 1. That is, hyperplane is going to be line. So, but as hyperplane, yes, hyperplane is going to be line. But to divide this complete data into two parts, there can be infinite number of hyperplanes possible. It can be this, it can be this, it can be this, and so on. Infinite number of hyperplanes are possible. So our task is to find out the correct one. All these are hyperplanes, and intentionally they are shown in different colors. Here we have shown only three. See, if you imagine this as a hyperplane, so this will be one group, this will be another group. If you imagine this as a hyperplane, this will be one group, this will be another group, and so on. But we need to come up with such a hyperplane which is going to be which is going to satisfy conditions according to support the machine. Now, what are those conditions? The condition was, see, from this green group, if you see this particular point and this point, so we have chosen one point from this group and one point from this group. Why these points only? Because these are the points which are the nearest points from these lines as compared to other points. So you need to find out from all these lines, you need to find out such a line whose distance from this point and this point is as maximum as possible. This distance d should be as maximum as possible. Obviously, you don't have to do any mathematical calculation. You don't have to do anything. You just need to go and you need to call a support vector machine function. That's it. But in the backend, what's going to happen? In the backend, SVM is going to work like this. It is going to find out a hyperplane in such a way that distance from this point and this point, distance of that hyperplane from these 2 points is as maximum as possible. And what are these 2 points called as? They are called as support vectors. Right? Support vectors are the points from the hyperplane whose distance is as maximum as possible. And they are the points who are nearer as compared to other points from the hyperplane. Right? So this is the basic idea behind support vector machine. I hope you people have got the basic idea how are you going to choose the hyperplane. Again, explanation is given here. Don't worry if you haven't understood yet. I will go and I will try to go through that particular explanation. See, we can see that there are two groups of data. As I told you, green and this one is suppose blue. The question is how to divide these points into two groups. It can be done using any of the three lines. As I told you, it's not like that only three lines are possible. Yes, obviously there are more than three lines possible. Infinite number of lines are possible, right? So, but we need to find out the best one. Or for that purpose, there can be infinite number of straight lines that can divide data into points into two classes. That's what I was talking about. Now, which line to choose? SVM solves this problem using maximum margin as shown. Whatever I talked about earlier, maximum marginal classifier. If you remember this particular term, right? When I was explaining you about support vector machine, I talked about something called as maximum marginal classifier. Why it is called as maximum marginal classifier? Because that margin we are going to keep as maximum as possible. Which margin? The margin from the support vectors from this to this line. See, this is what it's going to do in the background. Now, this black line, this is your hyperplane. Obviously, there are an infinite number of lines which are possible, but this line is chosen as hyperplane. Why? Because we have taken 2 points, one from this group, another from this group. See, as it's a supervised learning approach, it means what? It means you are already aware about input as well as the output. Your data is labeled data. That means we have a labeled data. That's why we know that this particular point belongs to this group and this particular point belongs to this group. Try to understand. Okay, try to understand the term. Support supervised learning. It means we are already aware about input as well as the output. We know that it's a label data. So one point from this and one point from this. Right? These are called as support vectors. So this distance d and this distance d should be as maximum as possible. So this line is chosen in such a way that the distance from this support vector and this support vector should be as maximum as possible. So these two are called as support vectors. This is called as hyperplane and this is called as maximum margin. And that's why maximum marginal classifier is the term which is used by support vector machine. Okay. So see, we can see that there are two groups. The question is, okay, how to choose? We have already written. The SVM solve this problem using the maximum margin as shown. Explanation of this particular figure is given. The black line in the middle is the optimum classifier. This line is drawn to maximize the distance of the classifier line from the nearest points in two classes. It is called as hyperplane. This black line is called as hyperplane in terms of support vector machine. A hyperplane is an n-1 dimensional plane which optimally divides data of n dimensions. Okay. Here, as we have only two-dimensional data, so the hyperplane can be represented using one dimension. Hence, the hyperplane is a line. That's what I talked about earlier. The 2 points highlighted with circles, which are on yellow lines. Which 2 points? Support vectors on yellow lines. They are called as support vectors. As it's a 2D figure, they are points in multi-dimensional space, n-dimensional space. They will be vectors. What is a vector? Vector is a collection. Vector is nothing but what? One-dimensional array. Vector is the array. Remember, okay? And hence the name support vector. Why the name support vector machine? Because in n-dimensional space, the support vectors are going to be vectors. Here the support vectors are just the points. Okay. As the algorithm creates optimal classification line by maximizing its distance from the two support vectors. And that's why the name is support vector machine. Okay. When the data is not linearly separable, that means when your data is something like this. Then to create hyperplane to separate data into different groups, support vector machine needs to perform computation in higher dimensional space. That means n-dimensional space. But the introduction of new dimensions makes the computations for SVM more intensive, which impacts algorithm performance. See, as and when number of dimensions increase, obviously the performance of the algorithm is going to decrease. So to rectify this, mathematicians came up with approach of kernel methods. That is nothing but kernel trick, which I was talking about. So kernel method use kernel functions available in mathematics. That is radial basis function, sigmoid function, hypertangent function, polynomial function, right? Linear model function, and so on. So the unique feature of kernel function is to compute in a higher dimensional space without calculating new coordinates in higher dimensions. That is without adding new columns, new features. So it implicitly uses predefined mathematical functions like RBF to do operations on existing points which mimic the computation in higher dimensional space without adding computation cost, as they are not actually calculating the coordinates in the higher dimension, thereby avoiding computation of calculating the distances from newly computed points. This is called as kernel trick. As I told you, what is kernel trick? Kernel trick is going to accept the input in original space and then it is going to convert it into feature space. So whatever I talked about, pictorial representation of the same thing is shown. This is your original data. This here you are not able to see which data belongs to which class, right? But kernel trick is going to convert it into like this, and it is going to introduce something like hyperplane. So in this case, as it's a three-dimensional data, your hyperplane is a plane. This is actually hyperplane. In earlier case, the hyperplane was a line. In this case, the hyperplane is actual plane. So this is one group, and this one is another group. Right? So in the left diagram, we have non-linear distribution of data, as we cannot classify data as a linear equation. So to solve this problem, we can project the points in three-dimensional space and then derive a plane which divides data into two parts. Remember, this is how those methods are going to be used, right, to solve this problem. So we can project the points in three-dimensional space and then derive a plane which divides data into two parts. In theory, That's what a kernel function does without computing additional coordinates for higher dimensions. Okay. So Sharon is asking, sir, kernel tree converts into n plus 1 dimensions. Is this right? Yes, it depends. It can convert into n plus 1 dimensions. Actually, we cannot say convert actually. What we can say is it introduces a plane which helps you to divide your data into different classes. See, it introduces a hyperplane. That's what it does. You cannot say it is going to convert. So see, here in this case, it's not possible to divide your data. You can check. We have a non-linear distribution of data, as we cannot classify data using linear equation. So to solve this problem, we can project the points in three-dimensional space. So we cannot say convert, we can say project, right? Projection. So it's like if this is your one-dimensional data, I can convert this. I can project this into the dimensional just by introducing y-axis. So maybe I can apply y is equal to x square. Now, if I go and if I try to calculate corresponding y value for this x value, take the square of this x value. Suppose it is here. Suppose it is here. Suppose it is here. Suppose it is here. So now this data is actually projected onto y-axis or two-dimensional space. But generally we call it as convert also. But actually it's not converting; it's projecting. Is it clear, Sharon? Right, yes, pictorially also it is shown. So yes, that was about the mathematics and basic theory of support vector machine. I will not take much of your time. Python implementation for the same algorithm we will be talking about in the next session, and there we will be implementing two problems. Right. So yes, guys, I will stop here. Now you can share your numbers and names.